Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Peachy and this channel is all about my Sylvanian families collection. August has now come to an end. We're moving into autumn or fall, so I thought it was time to change up the big scene on my table again. So the big scene has been cleared away and popped back on its usual shelf. It's like it never even left. And so for autumn, I thought it would be nice to do a big farm scene. So this here is my farm shelf, but like I did with the beach scene shelf for summer, I want to move it up onto the big table and expand it out with other buildings and other bits and pieces and just make a larger scene. So I'm going to get on with setting that up now, and for me it will probably take a couple of weeks, but for you it will be a split second and I'll be back to show you the finished scene. And here is the finished scene, or at least as much of it as I can fit in with the camera on the tripod like this. It's quite a wide scene, so getting it all in shot is a little bit difficult, but what I can do is give you a quick pan back and forth, and then we'll go in and look at all the details anyway, but here is kind of the whole thing. And then if I pop the camera here, you can see the two main buildings that I've used in this setup. So we've got the Highfields farmhouse just over here, and then the Field View windmill, which is just over here. So in my village, Highfield Farm is owned by the Buttercup cow family, and you'll see members of that family scattered throughout the scene. And the Field View windmill is owned by the Dale sheep family, and again you'll see them throughout this video. Highfield Farm is best known for its plentiful apple trees. So every autumn the village rallies round to do a harvest of the apples, but also all of the other fruit and veg that they're kind of growing throughout the year. So it's a real working farm, needs lots of hands on deck to get everything harvested, and that's what we're going to see when I take you in a bit closer. So starting on the left hand side of the scene, as we usually do, we can find some members of the Dale sheep family, and they're picking apples from the trees in their garden. So Lona here, who's the sister character, she is looking up at this tree and wondering how she's going to get the apples that are up on the higher branches. Then we have little Emma here, who's trying to lend a helping hand, but instead she's managed to tip up the apple basket and knock some of the apples onto the floor. And then we find Shona here, and she is making a getaway with one of the apples, and she's hoping that she's going to be able to eat this before her big sister notices, and she's trying to make a speedy getaway. But up on the balcony here we have Branson and Amelia Whiskers, and they've definitely spotted what is going on down below, and they are having a good chuckle about it. Then moving around we can see the outside of the Field View mill. Here we've got some firewood piled up, perfect for when the weather starts getting a little chillier. Then down in the foreground we can see Mr. Webster here. He's just stocked up his cart, ready to go about his rounds for the day back in the village. And Miss Marble is also here. She has just finished up a visit to the farm shop, and she has a basket full of fresh produce. And she's about to head back into the village as well. So they think, oh, what a perfect coincidence. We'll head back together, keep each other company on the way, and I'm sure there'll probably be some gossip as well, as these two are particularly known for their love of chatting about all the goings on in the village. Then here in the kitchen of Field View windmill, you might just be able to see her on camera. We find Barbara Dale, and she's busy fixing up various snacks for people who have been helping out with the harvest, making sure to keep everybody very well fed. You can see just here is a fruit tart that she's finished up and popped out for anyone to come and help themselves to. Then up here on the balcony we find the Meadows mice. So this is Jack and Daisy, and they're taking a quick break. They're having a cup of tea and a slice of cake, and then they'll be right back to work. But moving around here we can see Heather and Lester, who are the Thistlethorn mice children. And they're also taking a break, though theirs is more of a sneaking away from their duties to go up onto the windmill balcony and enjoy the views. So from here they can see across the whole farm. Then moving along again into the foreground, we have this big fishing pond here. So Highfield Farm, whilst it's a working farm, is also in the middle of a really popular walking trail. So they often have passers-by coming through and they're happy for people to shortcut through the farm. And they have this little fishing pond here that they're happy for people to enjoy on their walks. So over on the left side of the pond here on the dock, we find Benjamin Underwood, and he is giving his son Byron a fishing lesson. And you can see they've also brought with them a little packed lunch to enjoy while they're having their little father-son bonding time. And then moving across to the little rowboat here, we find some adventurous hikers. So in the back is Evelyn Woodbrook, and in the front is her little brother Ethan, and also their good friend Mabel. So when they were passing the Underwoods, Ethan and Mabel have been absolutely intrigued by the idea of this pond being full of fish, and they wanted to try and see them for themselves. So they're scouring the water for anything that they might see splashing about in there. And then Evelyn is keeping a very close eye on them, making sure nobody's jumping out of the boat. Then over on the shore just here we have Mick Latte, and he is taking a well-earned rest from carrying around this heavy hiking pack. And he was watching what was going on the boat, but now he's just spotted where Pinot's run off to and what he's up to. And we'll come back to that in a minute. But that moves us on nicely to the scene in the background. So here you can see the Highfield's barn building, and that's all full of hay that's been harvested and stored away. And then we can see Richard E. Grunt, he's up on the top here, and down at the bottom is Ramsay Nettlefield, and they're working together to put more things away in storage. So at the moment it's this big old bag of seeds that they're winching up, and they'll go into the barn and come out in spring when it's time for new planting. Then moving forward just a fraction, we can see Ramsay's wife Caprina, and she's been busy trying to sweep all of these leaves up into a pile. And later this will be used as a bonfire so they can toast marshmallows and have other tasty snacks. But right now it's being used by William and Nanette as a playground, and they're having a great time rolling around in the leaves and just playing about and probably getting quite mucky, much to Caprina's dismay. And then moving along to this part of the scene, we can see the vegetable patch, and Daisy Buttercup is here, and she's commanding a small army of little helpers to harvest all the veg. The Grunt children, they are all proving most capable since they're here every year helping out. Even the toddlers are pitching in, though little minor Grunt just over here seems quite besotted with this cauliflower. He's quite peckish and imagining having a yummy snack of cauliflower cheese, and how much he'd like to be doing that right now instead of having to help out with the harvest. Then just here we see Horace Honeybear, and he's in a little world of his own, tending to his hive. He loves his bees, he loves making honey, so he's right in his element here. And then right at the back here we can see Angus and Bessie. They are having a nice warming cup of hot chocolate, and they're reminiscing on harvests past. They're a little bit too old to get really stuck into the heavy lifting now, but they're always on hand for advice, and they also love to supervise the proceedings. And then at the very front of the scene we see what Mick had spotted earlier. So little Pinot here and also Cheddar Buttercup are making off with some of the pumpkins. Pinot's been talking about Halloween since June, so it's not surprising that he's wanting to get the celebration started early, and it looks like he's found a willing accomplice too. So now that Mick spotted them, let's hope that he's able to stop the Great Pumpkin Heist before Daisy has to go and hire Miss Marble to work out where her missing pumpkins have gone. So moving along again, we have Highfield Farmhouse itself, and also the farm shop. So the farm shop is a favourite among the villagers. This is where people come to buy the freshest fruit and veg around. Obviously it's straight from the source, so it couldn't get much fresher. This is Daisy's sister Dottie, and she runs the shop. She really enjoys merchandising the stand to look the most visually appealing for the customers, and right now she is helping Beatrix Underwood with her selections. You can see she's got quite a range in her basket there already. Then over here we have little Hugh and Ella Underwood, and they're rummaging around through the baskets here, and they're also playing shopkeeper. They like to play shopkeeper and customer. Their sister Bess, who's just here, is keeping a close eye on them whilst also having a chat with her friend Annabelle. They're in the same class at school, so they've always got lots to talk about. And then just here we see Constance Grunt, and she's popped inside to fill up her bright yellow watering can and is now off to water the many plants around the farm. You can see some of those just outside the door here and here. Then moving forwards we find Elsie. Now Elsie is usually found with her ice cream bike throughout spring and summer, but in autumn she tends to return to Highfields and help out around the farm. Her favourite thing to do is get all the plants and gardens prepped for the coming winter, and that's what we found her in the middle of here. She's collecting up some of the more fragile plants and they will go into her greenhouse. Then coming down the path out of Highfields we can see Smokey and Flora Wildwood, and they've had another successful visit to the farm shop and they're on their way back into the village, and you can see lots of things in the basket there, mainly a fruit shop today. Then moving along a little bit more we can see Nutmeg the pony, and she has definitely spotted Annabelle all the way over here, who's carrying this bucket, likely full of very tasty treats inside, and at least that's what Nutmeg is hoping for. Nutmeg is all set to pull the farm cart, and that's loaded to the brim with lots of fresh produce. She will tend to pull that into the village and stock up all of the local shops there, so like the village store and the supermarket. So in the back we can see Bubba Babblebrook, and he's hard at work loading the various fruit and veg and keeping it all neat and tidy. Then here we can see Penley Buttercup and his nephew Paddock, and they're also hard at work loading up the cart. Then at the very back we can see Rocky Babblebrook. He's in the little storehouse come stable, and he's getting the last few bits to the front to then pass them through the train and get them loaded onto the cart. It's been an absolutely bumper harvest already and we're not even nearly done. So 2 big sacks of apples and lots of crates of more veg. Then coming back to the foreground we can see Hornbill Buttercup, and he's chatting with Emma Fairbanks while he's taking a short break from chopping up firewood. With the colder months coming in, firewood is also going to be another important product from the farm. So once all the veg is harvested, then they move on to kind of selling firewood. Little Alyssa here is very curious about what's going on in the wheelbarrow, and she's just kind of propped herself up so she can get a proper look. She couldn't see from kneeling on the floor. And then lastly, at the very right of the farm, we have the main orchard. So this orchard is the pride and joy of its main caretaker, Ewan Dale. The orchard's been in his family for generations, and we can see him just here, tucked away in the trees, and also his son Winton. And they're hard at work harvesting the fruit from the trees. Can also see Willow Thistlethorn here. She's busy picking up apples off the floor, and Chester Thistlethorn just back here about to scale this ladder to get some of those higher apples. They're here helping out as well. They're very good friends of the Dales and they can be found helping out most years. Then tucked away in between the trees you can just about see Kenneth Fairbanks, and he is with his 2 little twins, Ray and Faye. So if I move this tree out of the way, you'll be able to better see them, and we can pop it back in a minute. Here's Ray and Faye. There's Kenneth. So the Fairbanks family own the Courtyard restaurant, and every autumn they do a special apple-themed menu of dishes. Kenneth insists on coming and selecting the apples to be used himself. He's very particular about his cooking and his menu options as well. This year the twins insisted on coming as well. They wanted to help out and it's their first year doing so. Kenneth wasn't sure about it. He wasn't sure if they were old enough at first, but they're doing an absolutely fantastic job of scavenging anything that falls to the ground and saving Kenneth back from having to keep picking things up. So he's very thankful that they're here. Just pop that tree back in there. And then finally, over here at the orchard, we can see Katrina Whiskers alongside her husband Sebastian, who's just over here. They make up the kind of final trio of those hard at work here, along with Bob Blackberry just over here. So Katrina's busy picking up the apples from the lower branches, and then with the help of Bob, Sebastian's up here getting those higher branches and more hard to reach places on the taller trees. So there's two sizes of trees here, the more mature ones at the back and then the younger ones at the front here. And that is the orchard section of the farm. And with that, that's the whole scene. I wanted to do something a little bit different for autumn this year. I usually do Halloween. I'm not sure if I'm going to do Halloween or maybe something a little bit smaller for Halloween this year, but I've been wanting to do a harvest on the farm scene for a little while, so I'm glad I finally got around to it. And that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye for now.